Well, hello, everybody. Is it going to work? I don't know if it's working. You can hear me, though. So we're going to talk very quickly about the beginning of World War II. So looking at our bell ringer that we're not in class to do, using the quote, describe the purpose and assistance the Lend-Lease Act provided primarily to the Allies or England and France, but France got run over by Germany, so mostly England. We Americans are vitally concerned in your defense of freedom. We are putting forth our energies and resources and our organizing powers to give you the strength to regain and maintain a free world. We shall send you in ever-increasing numbers of ships, planes, tanks, guns. That is our purpose. That is our pledge. So President Roosevelt gave that pledge to the Allies in 1941, which essentially said to get around the Neutrality Act that we would lend and rent that equipment to the Allied powers. That was upsetting to the Axis, obviously, and we had to then end up going to war because the Japanese attacked us. So we're looking at the causes of World War II, Allied strategies in the Pacific and European theaters. We're going to look at some propaganda, look at the home front, including Japanese internment, and look at some other stuff. So this is the speech that FDR gave upon our attack at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. You can go watch that on Schoology, and I recommend you do that. And so you can see the date that will live in infamy. After that, we started to ramp up war production here at home even more. Men were enlisting in the Army or being drafted and being sent to mobilize in preparation for that war. Women started to step in and fill roles in manufacturing. And then at home, we had a lot of propaganda being used to keep people motivated in the war effort. So when you see propaganda, there's several techniques: name calling, glittering generalities, making false connections, special appeals, and logical fallacies. So things to keep in mind, these are still current techniques, and you may see them in media as we are navigating a difficult world right now. So one of the things that was pretty popular was anti-Japanese American or Japanese sentiment that spills over to Japanese Americans. Using name calling them Japs instead of Japanese or Japanese Americans. Everybody's doing it, bandwagon approach. We all need to sort of jump on board and help with this situation. You can also see glittering generalities that Russians are fighting for freedom, and that, all Russians are fighting for freedom. All Americans should be all together. This is actually a battlefield image from Iwo Jima, and these gentlemen were taken out of the battlefield and paraded around the country in order to sell war bonds later in the war in order to fund the war. So theirs was a testimonial that was used and an image used all over the place. Then getting people to sort of ration and control their own behaviors, much like we are doing right now. People had rationing tickets. You got a limited amount of resources. And they also had sort of this fear, like, people are watching us, you got to keep your mouth shut, don't tell or write about where your boyfriend, husband, brother, uncle, nephew are stationed. And people here at home were asked to cut back on all kinds of things, including basic staples, encouraging people to grow victory gardens and participate any way that they could. Encouraging people to join. You had logical fallacies, transfer, I want you for the U.S. Army, and logical fallacies are careless talk got us there first, stay on the job until every murdering Jap is wiped out. So just blatant fallacies that are not true. Even kids' comic books got in on the action. Wonder Woman and Captain America were all comic book heroes during this time, fighting often Axis powers or Nazis. And then fear of and xenophobia were popping up and ultimately resulted in FDR issuing the Executive Order 9066, which forced relocated anybody of Japanese American descent from the West Coast, essentially declaring the entire West Coast a military installment. And so that gave them the ability to relocate those folks into the interior. And it wasn't just enough that they moved, they actually had to put them into internment camps or detention camps. During the war itself, photographers were not allowed to take picture of guard towers or barbed wire, but they absolutely had those things. And we actually had one here in Idaho in Minidoka that housed close to 10,000 people at its peak. So these were pretty rough places in really remote areas. Weather was pretty nasty, and these folks were just kind of stuck there for the duration. Okay, so that's that. Bye.